Now, this next story is going to be heartbreaking for not just myself, for a lot of you guys. The woman you see right there, that's a beautiful 51-year-old woman by the name of Orsolya Gaal. It's a married woman who had 2 children, a 17-year-old son, and I believe a 13-year-old. Well, in New York, she was found in a duffel bag, mutilated, mauled, and in a duffel bag. All over this country, you see crime increasing. You see so many people ask me why I stay on the road, moving around, and it's because, listen, I am and have been for a long time, looking for a place of peace, a place where I can minimize possibilities of things like this, not just for myself, but for family, for things of that nature, right? Because let's call it what it is. The world is in the end of days. Now, I'm not a religious man. I think many of you guys know that. But you can look around and see that evil is driving this car. Evil is running this place, and that's no different in this story we're going to look at here today. Husband and 17-year-old son are declared persons of interest after New York City mom of 2's body was found in a bloody duffel bag dumped on the street near the family home in Queens. A woman's body was discovered in a bloody duffel bag in Queens Saturday. The victim was identified as married mom of 2. Why don't I say mother of 2? That's weird. 51, cops said Orsolya Gaal. Cops said a blood trail from the bag led them to Gaal's house, located in a gated community about a half a mile from where her body was found. A local resident was the first to stumble across the grisly scene, the police said. No arrests have been made in the ongoing investigation, of course, the police said. Guys, let's take a look at this story. Let's go ahead and take a look at this story real quick, and I'll give you a little bit more input on this because there is a little bit more released, including pictures, video surveillance footage of the guy with the duffel bag. I hate to say this, but after you hear this story, you have to question whether this woman was cheating on her man who was out of town. And I know you're not going to like this accusation, but you need to understand that her husband and son, 17-year-old, was out of town. The 13-year-old didn't even know anything had happened. She had been out with friends, drinking or something of that nature that evening. How many women would go out with their friends to the bar or anywhere while their husband's out of town? I only know one type of woman that would do that. I'm going to leave that there, and I'll let you guys decide. Let's continue.
We begin with that gruesome murder.
God damn it. Hold on. I got to fucking plug my headphones in. What am I thinking here? Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. All right. Sorry about that. You guys will see a little bit of a freeze. Here we go.
Investigation in Queens. Police have just identified the victim, and now investigators are asking anyone with information to call them. CBS 2's Kieran Dillon is live in Forest Hills with the new developments. Kieran?
Jessica, it was a horrific scene here in Queens after a woman's body was found inside of a duffel bag earlier today. Police say this home here behind me is one of 2 scenes involved in this investigation. Let me give you a live look behind me right now so you can see for yourself. Now, officers have been here inside this home, outside this home all day on Juno Street guarding the scene. We now know this is the home the victim lived in with her family. Police say a trail of blood from where the duffel bag was found a few blocks away led them to this home. Investigators combed the scene where a duffel bag with 51-year-old Orsolya Gaal's remains were found Saturday. Police say a man was walking his dog near Metropolitan Avenue in Forest Park Drive just after 8 in the morning when he came across the bag. Decomposition of the body inside had not yet begun. A few blocks away on Juno Street, police tape surrounded a home where neighbors say Gaal lived.
I'm going to miss her. I'm in shock. And we cannot believe that this is happening.
Neighbors add Gaal lived in the home with their 2 sons, aged 13 and 17, as well as her husband. They describe her as a stay-at-home mom who loved her children.
Just so tragic. I just feel sick to the bone about hearing this. She enjoyed life. She was out and about, you know, socializing, seeing theater.
No, and I agree. She was out and about socializing. And that is what I'm saying could be the issue. And look, I know a lot of you guys, you guys don't see this, and maybe I am just a toxic male. But in my honest opinion, if you're grown with kids and shit, you don't go out drinking. You don't go out with friends. And when you see the surveillance footage of the guy dragging her away at 4:30 in the morning, you have to ask yourself, how did that happen and how come the 13-year-old didn't hear it? Didn't. Like, what actually happened? And this is a story that obviously I don't know all the answers to, but I'm just being dead honest with you. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And I know not all of you are going to agree with that because you're mainly just like this hoe, excuse me, but you want to be out and fraternizing instead of at home with your children, especially when your husband's out of town. To me, that's unacceptable. Now, granted, you may look at me and say, well, you're controlling and you're this and that, but I'll tell you what I've never had is a dead wife. Listen, I'm just telling you this right now. If my girl came home at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 4 a.m., 10 p.m., she'd be out. 100% out. Because there's nothing good that can come at those hours, and this situation clearly shows it.
It is traveling.
Police say a trail of blood from the duffel bag led them to the home in question.
Now, this is curious to me.
Blunt force trauma is the suspected cause of death.
Blunt force trauma. But I also want to say to you when you're looking at this, right? Because she was obviously dragged from her house with this, how did the dude gain access to the house? It's a gated community. Is it possible she brought him home for maybe a nightcap? Or is it random?
Investigators initially believed Gaal's 13-year-old son and husband may have been persons of interest in the case. They now say the husband is not considered a suspect. Police add the woman's 13-year-old son was taken in for questioning but has since been released. Investigators are now looking at Gaal's phone records to determine when it was last active. Nicola Blankson says she saw Gaal on Friday and she seemed like she was in good spirits.
And she was in the garden with the dog and the son, so I heard them talking. Just regular family stuff.
These distraught residents in this quiet community
right.
Lives will not be the same neither, because every time I would come out, I would hear her or the dog barking. She was a very happy woman, always smiling, always joking.
And loved life. She loved life, really.
It's a sad story. It really is.
So, Jessica, so far, no arrests have been made. A motive for this attack also remains unclear. At this hour, police are asking anyone with any information to call Crime Stoppers. We're live tonight.
Yeah, I got a theory, right? And we'll continue to look into the story a little bit, right? Let's go ahead and check this out. A woman whose body was found, discovered in a blood-filled duffel bag in Queens, has been identified. We went through all that. This is the Metropolitan Avenue in Forest Hills. There was a blood trail from the blood-soaked bag, led them all the way to Gaal's house. That's, how they found out who she was and where she was at. Husband and son were considered persons of interest. So the police followed the trail back to the house, made an emergency entry where they took the 13-year-old that was there alone, out in cuffs. He was alone in the house's top floor. The kid didn't know where his mom was, so they cuffed the kid and took him out. They then determined he had no knowledge of the crime, determining also that the body was indeed Gaal's. The husband, Howard Klein, was reportedly traveling out of state with the couple's eldest son, age 17. Now, I have to say this. That's awfully convenient, right? That's awfully convenient. Now, I'm just throwing that out there. I personally don't think the husband had anything to do with this. But they were investigating that a male family did the job. I don't know why they bleeped out everybody else, but yet they show Howard Klein. He's an innocent party to the case. Why is his picture being shown? Makes no sense to me at all. When reached by the Post via the phone, Klein said he was in the middle of a terrible experience, and that's obvious, and that he was readying to fly back to New York. My son Leo is safe, thank God. My son is safe, he said of the 13-year-old. Now, obviously, she's been doing a lot of traveling. She's went quite a few places. The Klein wrote that he and his son, this is what he tweeted, had landed in Portland, Oregon, and that they had plans to head to Ann Arbor, Michigan, where the businessman received his undergraduate degree in 1990, according to his LinkedIn. When Van Nosteren, the guy that found the bag, opened the bag, he found a mangled body, which he said had been packed in the bag in a fetal position. To me, it looked like a mannequin, the Queens resident said. It didn't look very fleshy. It was more like a crash test dummy. I thought it was maybe some equipment being used for something. I didn't think anything about it. The bag had wheels. Let's go ahead and continue here. When we're talking about New York, major crimes were up 44% from the same period in 2021. Felony assaults up 19%. Robberies are up 48%. Murders are down 11%, but other crimes are well up, including shooting incidents rising 8%. Burglaries up 31%. Grand larceny soaring 77%. Major crimes, meanwhile, are up overall by over 50% in New York. Now let's get to this. Pictured, the killer is seen dragging the duffel bag with her body inside from the $2 million family home just hours after 51-year-old mom had returned from a night out with friends in New York City. Orsolya Gaal, age 51, was seen by neighbor John Blankson Friday evening just walking around the yard with the dog. The sun came out. We already know all that, right? They just talked about that. A source also told the New York Post that Gaal was out with friends on Friday night during her final hours. An NYPD official said they had footage from around 4:30 a.m. on Saturday of someone rolling a bag containing Gaal's body down the sidewalk from multiple cameras. A shocking surveillance photo captured the moment an unidentified person drug a bloody hockey bag down a New York City sidewalk Friday night, filled with what cops have described as the butchered remains of Queen's mother, who just hours before was out with friends and seemingly enjoying herself. Of course, she was out with friends on Friday night during her final hours. The footage from around 4:30 a.m. on Saturday of someone rolling the bag containing her body down the sidewalk from multiple cameras, showing a man in a hoodie rolling a large bag down the sidewalk near Gaal's home in Forest Hills. She knew the people that she was out with, the source said of Gaal. We're talking to them. We also have to figure out, did she meet some mysterious stranger along the way? It's a good question, ain't it? Did she meet some mysterious stranger along the way? That's obviously the question at hand. Let's see what we can see here. Not a whole lot we can see with this image. That's her body. He's just dragging down the street. That's not a 13-year-old there. That's, if you ask me, that's someone she met while she was out, or at the very least that followed her back home. But it doesn't seem so far that there was any kind of theft, any kind of robbery. But where did he chop her up at? Chances are the house, right? So you're telling me the 13-year-old kid didn't know anything about this? So it's really confusing when you look at it, because it's a dismembered body. And the blood stains lead a path back to the house. But the 13-year-old kid was upstairs asleep. Who was in the house with her that had the ability to not only kill her quietly and intimately, and chop her up, put her in a bag, and take her down the road? Who is that hoodie-wearing man in that photo? Do you think that's the 13-year-old? It can't be the father, because the father was traveling via airplane to Oregon, Portland, and then ultimately to Ann Arbor, Michigan. This happened in New York. Let me know what you guys think about this. I'm going to give you my final verdict. I think she was flirting or cheating. I think that's what happened. What do you guys think? Let me know.